Hello, friends. I want to explain something about a certain aspect of the current events in Europe. This should be a short video. I have expressed my a fact about the tripod of Israel, that is the Russian regime, the Iran's regime, uh, and the Chinese regime. For them, that's the future rule. Like that's the highest level of this pyramid thing. Now, sure, there are other tentacles out there, such as like the government of the United States, such as here and there in the Middle East and in the Gulf and in Turkey, right? Uh, but what I wanted to say is this: for Western Europeans, it should be very obvious and very clear and very stark fact that the agenda being executed, the events now that are unfolding in Ukraine and in Europe, and the direct threats by the Pustalinins of Finland and Sweden not to join the EU and so on. I did speak of that before. Maybe you thought it was an overactive imagination or ranting or just basically wanted to put a video on YouTube. No. The agenda now should be sorted out very clearly by any initiated person who can understand and analyze what's going on, and in light of the history of this century and the last century, the track records of the Pustalinins and those lizard eyes of Moscow. I keep saying lizard eyes because it is very relevant metaphor and likeness, because the lizard usually is always out in search of a prey or food. And to you, it seems like it does nothing else really except devour. It has this unblinking, unflinching stare that is primordial, primitive and primordial. It's assessing any object that is inside to see if it has any nutritional value. And then it runs in, once it sees what inside what's going on, it trashes in, it could run, those big lizards, they can run. And they devour with the most ugly, in the most ugly fashion, they devour their prey, whether it is anything, and that's likeness to that junta in Moscow, basic and simple. Make no mistake about that. But back to the original point. I hope that you are able to surmise and sort out what is going on. That is nothing short of an agenda and a plan that has been developed for at least 1 decade for Putins to take over Europe. Pustalinins. Pustalinins means Putin and Stalin and Lenin put together gives you Pustalinin. But make no mistake, these are brothers of creed and religion and whatever. They harbor the same dark dogma in their minds. And it is something sinister. It is something that is almost fictional in terms of humanity, for a human to think of other humans like that. It borders on the fiction, but it is real. So Europeans, the agenda is very simple. If you haven't really thought of it until now, or spoken of it until now, or raised the issue among your people until now, then you're guilty. It is nothing less than the takeover of Putin's of Europe, entire Europe, basic and simple. You may have doubted my earlier rants, whether it is on Twitter where I post or if I talked about in videos, that their intentions, Putin's intentions, is to really take over Europe. And you probably found that to be far-fetched. But no, now you realize that with their own statements, such as threatening Finland and Sweden, that this is real as it gets. And folks, citizens of Europe, those Pustalinins have a lot of help in Western Europe. And if they move against your country, if they go through Ukraine and move into your countries, they will commit the mother of all blood purges against you Germanics and against you Scandinavian, because they look at you just like they look at the Sunnis of Syria and Iraq, period. And that's that. You know, if you cannot comprehend that and heed this warning, I don't know what else you will heed. Putin is being held by Erdogan, by Israel, by the Gulf countries, by the United States, financially and intelligence and politically and everything. You know, they're forcing everybody to stay out of the fight and allow him, the Pustalinin, to take over Ukraine, because that was the plan. And for whatever it takes, they will not allow it to falter and basically get defeated. And the fact of the matter is, they found otherwise, and now they are concerned because the Ukrainian people showed courage and resilience. And I have all the reasons to believe that the invasion of Ukraine by those lizard eyes of Moscow will not succeed. And if it does, it'll be partial and it'll exhaust the living daylight out of them. Now, if they were not supported financially in Syria, word has it that reliable reports has it that the UAE, United Arab Emirates, financed total cost of the expedition in Syria, which is about 10 years by now. Yeah. And here's the word for you, Ukrainians and Europeans. If UAE and other countries in the Gulf countries, I don't want to mention others, but I am sure like Qatar and other countries supported Russia financially, and they support Iran financially, and they support the Lebanese Hezbollah financially. Russia would have collapsed in Syria just like the Soviet Union collapsed in Afghanistan. And that is also possible for them to collapse in Ukraine. And now Biden and others are supporting them via under table, if you will. European citizen, if you don't fight now for your country, if you don't go to Ukraine and send Ukraine and bypass the government of Ukraine, you don't know what it is. You want to send weapons? Send it to the army, hand it to the army in the West, and they will take care of it and they will disperse it. And if you want to volunteer, go volunteer now. Be very careful of those volunteers, Syrian volunteers that will come from Turkey and probably from Syria. The reason being is very simple. Russia is in their land. So if they care to come and fight and die against Russia because it destroyed and killed millions in Syria, along with the Syrian regime, then Russia is next to them. They can go into Syria and fight. Now, they may lack the weapons, but there will be weapons for them there. What happened in Syria is very simple. ISIS was symbolic, was created by Putin's Syrian regime and Erdogan and Gulf countries, and it was ordered by Israel. So ISIS, Qaeda, and other those shadowy organizations such as Nusra and so on were on the inside of the Syrian population and Syrian defected army and so on, who were defending the population, and they were hitting from behind the lines, if you will. So they were on the inside. On the outside was Iran, Russia, and the regime and Hezbollah and Erdogan as well. And when Erdogan failed to invade the north, when Russia failed to take over the north, including Aleppo, they ordered Turkey in, Israel ordered Erdogan in, and they committed a fake coup in order to purge the army from religious elements, so they won't defect over to the Syrian Sunnis, right? And they did. So now, and Israel covered finances through the Gulf countries, through the United States, and through the UN, and their main purpose is really to destroy the Syrian people and save the regime in Syria. And make no mistake, that's the plan for Western Europe. So you Western European citizen and American citizen for that matter, if you value, you may say that there is an ocean between us, and I am an American, right? I live in America. You may say that there is an ocean between you and Europe. Oh, that ocean, you have no idea how small that distance, how short that distance will be if Putin's ever take over Ukraine or Europe for that matter. And that's the agenda. Well, remember on January 6th when Putin's Pustalinin nearly took over the White House. And if they've taken over the White House, they will have sheared off the Constitution. Now they will work by decree, right? And guess what? The very same whites who supported Trump into the office and put him into office will be the first one to be eliminated. And in mass, you will have seen the United States now in a bloodbath, basic and simple. You don't believe me? It happened before in the last century in Germany, in Iran, in Russia, in Cuba, here and there. All those who supported those movements, communism and Nazism and revolution in Iran and in China and here and there and Castro, they were all eliminated and new elements came in, right, to rule and so on. Basic and simple. It's that simple, folks. So you Americans have a big stake in Europe as well. And again, the Ukraine government is in question because they've been in conflict with Russia for what 8 years now, and they've failed to develop any weapons, even though it's an industrial country and they have history of manufacturing military hardware and so on, as if they were waiting for this to happen. So, but nonetheless, this is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about now is the agenda you should have now, by now, realized what I was talking about earlier, is that the Putins, that one big leg of the tripod of Israel, is meant to take over Europe. And when they take over Europe, the first act will be as brothers Putin and Stalin did when they took over Russia, is to blood purge it. Have a nice day, my friends. I wish you wake up and I wish you go into Ukraine now and make sure those Belarusians and Russians don't take over the country. Because I assure you, and you will find out, and I hope you don't. I hope I'm wrong. But if so, you will find out that this is true as it gets. And there is a mother of all blood purges on the horizon, looming on the horizon, coming from those lizard eyes of Moscow toward you, Scandinavia and Germanics. Have a nice day, my friends. And I wish you move against that menace from the east.